record. It's like, oh yeah, push the button, it'll be on the jump drive. Well, that don't work because it doesn't upload, and it's like, it's just been a mess.
They were in there together.
And it's not like we hired Marco to come out because they did the county, and I talked to them, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty easy. And I'm like, oh, easy's good for us. We don't need anything too snazzy.
This kid's big.
Sarah's about had enough of Marco's streaming
stuff. I don't know any Tim's kids, none.
Yeah, because I put her on it.
Yeah, he was with Terry. I looked at Terry.
Everybody's in that boat though.
You dress like that all the time, or are you working? He said, "Oh, I just dress like that to make people think I'm working." I thought he was retired from the college.
But when easy things are hard, I'm very,
Especially when everybody, oh, it's an easy kid.
yeah, and it's like, it was originally described as a dump drive, in and out.
Yeah.
Well, it has not been in and out, dump drive. So, yeah.
I think I wasn't in that one day, and she texted me, "You will not believe it, I got the video uploaded." I just have to tell somebody.
We will now call the meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So we'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will now move on to the discussion of the orderly annexation agreement and annexation petition. Do we have any comments at this time from the City Council? Okay, well, in my opinion, we have to get going on this right now. If we wait too much longer, we're gonna have a feeling we're gonna get too many people coming in for, we're gonna get people coming in for more solar gardens, which is gonna cost the city a whole lot more trying to expand. And I would like to see that orderly annexation agreement passed. If not, we will have to go to the other annexation petition. Resolution 2021-08, Petition of Annexation. Now, you all read it. Does anybody have anything? Once again, I would like the council, anything to say on it?
Are we gonna wait till after their meeting? Yes, no?
Sarah?
That's up to the council, but what, we had talked a number of meetings on our options, and And the last meeting with the township, the agreement did not pass. They came back, as I indicated in our email, with a number of items, regarding reducing the solar, and also reducing the area, setback, or the area that we had within the orderly annexation. Both were concerns, items that were of the utmost importance of the city council and non-starters in discussion as far as, the city was concerned. So this is why this is being presented to you, because I know we've been talking about it for a couple months. How do we get this to move forward? The thing with this process is there is a time period. So there is a 30-day clock that needs to tick before we can turn that into the state. And starting that time is important. The longer this drags out, the more vulnerable the city becomes, as far as things that could happen in our immediate boundaries that might prohibit our future growth and development and expansion of the utilities. So by addressing the petition today, you start the clock. If you don't want to proceed with the petition, if something changes in that 30 days, that always is an option of the council. The council could reconsider that orderly annexation agreement if the township would come back with something agreeable. That is an option. We cannot file it legally until 30 days have passed.
With that said, Mr. Mayor, with that option, I think we should proceed. At the end.
I'm in favor of proceeding. We've been at this for a long time.
What map are we gonna use? The original one, or the one that's been adjusted, or the new one, or?
I
So-
believe,
The petition calls for, and I'll let maybe the attorney talk a little bit about that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so in working with staff on putting this petition together, my comment to Sarah and Mark was, if the council does decide to move forward with annexation, I recommended they take a close look at that map that was included in the orderly annexation agreement. And if there were any questions, now is the time to include property in the annexation. Even if, as a concession, you had pulled back on that orderly annexation agreement, that it's better to roll everything into your petition, and to the extent that you want to pull stuff back, you certainly can. But adding it might require some additional time. So that's why you see some additional parcels identified beyond the map that was in the orderly annexation agreement that was proposed with the township.
So we looking at Exhibit B?
What's on the?
Okay, yeah, that's what we have here.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Exhibit B.
When we were looking at the orderly annexation agreement, we really tried to scale the area down as much as we could, within that time period. So that is why, and if you look, all the areas within the OAA proposal was really either directly located near a utility or very close where we could have provided an extension. Whereas this kind of hits some of those other targets that may be a little bit further out, but probably likely in the near future. So, like the attorney had explained, we did add some of those pieces, because we had kind of scaled back that map initially to try to ease into this orderly annexation process.
So Exhibit B is the biggest map?
Correct, and that is the proposal for the petition. So that's,
how it's written?
yep, correct.
Okay. Okay.
well, see, the setbacks that we have 500 feet, I think we have to stay with that. And I guess like I said, we've been battling this for a year or more already, and it's time we have to get moving, I feel. And that's why I would prefer to move on with the OAA, the orderly annexation area.
And I would just like to say, I think the petition is very well drafted for our reasons. It's very plain, easy to understand. I think you did a great job on that.
That's why we paid it, big bucks.
Now,
Well done, Adam, well done.
You know, it's not easy to make it so everybody can understand it.
okay, Adam, so if we were to pass the orderly annexation agreement tonight, and say at the Gilmanton Township Board meeting tomorrow night, they sign it, then we would go with the orderly annexation agreement?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a couple of issues. So, had some further discussions with the county, and the last version that was shared with the township addressed the desire to have a county representative on the board. In further discussions with the county attorney's office, that's gonna be problematic. And so it appears that 2 representatives from the city and 2 representatives from the township is really the only workable solution on that. And my suggestion would be, if the council wants to kind of hold the door open for the township pending their meeting tomorrow, my suggestion would be to act on the petition tonight, and instead of adjourning the meeting, continuing it to Friday maybe, whatever the council is, might be able to meet again. And then you could, if the township does decide to adopt the orderly annexation agreement, then the city council could act on it. My concern is, if you act on something and then the township tweaks something in there, then you're gonna have to call a special meeting or wait until your next regularly scheduled meeting.
Well, I would like to comment that I think we should vote on our petition, and if we vote on that we should, at this point, suspend negotiations with the township and bring any offers to the council. We should just suspend those negotiations, because it gets kind of mucky. I think their latest requests were just unacceptable to me. I don't know about the whole council. I don't think we're close with them. So I would say, you know, terminate or suspend those negotiations, pass this. If they've got something else they wanna offer us, let their lawyer worry about it. I think we spent an awful lot of time on this. And you know, there's endless changes that can be made, and all it does is delay. So I would support just terminating those negotiations, pass this. We can do something else if they come up with something else, but, you know, if it's terminated, then we can decide if their offer is so far apart, we can just not take the bait.
Can we make the said motion to include, you know, if they approve the orderly annexation tomorrow night, I think tonight we should vote to approve the petition. But without having a special meeting again, can we word that, or do we have to have a special meeting?
You know, I don't feel comfortable that we have a draft prepared for you to approve the specific language of, unfortunately.
Okay.
And so that's why my suggestion is to, instead of adjourn the meeting, continue it. Then you don't have to worry about, I mean, you'll still have an additional time to meet, but it won't have to go through the special meeting process where you gotta have 3 days notice.
All right.
But if we do that, then will we start the time running?
If you act on the petition tonight, you'll start the clock running, and just to be very clear about the petition, the council can stop that at any time. Even if the 30 days runs and the city files it with the state, it can be withdrawn if some agreement is reached with the township at any point.
Okay.
You know, it's not a point of no return.
Well, I think we've negotiated for almost a year, and we're getting major new proposals about who should be on the, you know, the planning board, get the county in, being asked not to attend their meeting. We are not close on an agreement here. So I am not in favor of any, if they do this, we'll do that. I don't like those kind of votes. And I would recommend that we just terminate our negotiations, pass the petition. If they want to renegotiate, let them start it up. Let them come up with a draft and we can accept it or reject it. I don't think a good negotiating tactic is to guess what they might take. I think they need to say what they want. And their most recent suggestions were just not acceptable. You know, we're not, I don't want to say we're not negotiating in good faith, but we're not making progress to a resolution here. So I would say just terminate those negotiations past this. They also can approach us with something that they think we might like, if they want to try to stop this petition. But let them spend the effort as what they're willing to offer that they think we might take, instead of us guessing what they might want. You know, they say this and that, and we redraft. They say this and that, and we're gonna redraft. Well, we don't need to do that anymore. We did it for a year. So I am not in favor of this type of negotiation. I don't think it has reached any conclusion. I think the proposals that are up are not in the middle or anything that, you know, it's new proposals within the last couple weeks. We've been at this a year. So I don't think those negotiations are going to be successful. And I don't think we should be the ones giving any more concessions on this.
Mr. Mayor, we should move and adopt the petition. We got 30 days to work with them yet. We can, we had some that we could change that order and go back to our orderly annexation. So long as we can do that, I think we should vote tonight to accept this petition.
Do we have a motion to pass Resolution 2021-08, Petition of Annexation?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I got one question. So if it gets annexed, or at what point does it become city taxes compared to township taxes?
So, under the petition process, this is asking for that land to all come within the city limits. Upon the issuance of that order from the state, that would take effect. I would assume it would be taxes payable 2022.
So what kind of hardship is that gonna put on Gilmanton Township when they lose all that revenue?
I don't know, we have not quantified what that tax change would be for them.
I would add that they have had the ability to quantify that themselves for the last year.
I've never seen a number.
Well, we weren't asked to the meeting, so, yeah. But they know what taxes they get from those properties. And they know what the orderly annexation would provide, and that has not been an incentive to approve.
I believe with our public community meeting that we had, that was the opportunity to anybody to ask the questions and to have questions answered. We did that. And that's why I think we need to move forward. All the questions could have been asked and answered at that time.
Do
Is there any further discussion? The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. We will now have open forum
You know, could I make an additional motion before we move to that,
concerning,
concerning the orderly annexation?
I mean, with respect to the petition, or, you're free to make a motion at any time, but.
Well, that's what I'd like to do. I would make a motion that we terminate negotiations on the orderly annexation agreement and withdraw our proposal for the orderly annexation.
Basically, that's what the motion read.
Not that we would withdraw the orderly annexation agreement. We were going to go with the petition.
Well, if they have a meeting and decide to go that way, why wouldn't we change and go with the orderly annexation?
Because we have a petition. If they wanna start negotiations again, they're free to do it. I don't think that, I think, you know, we're submitting a petition. I think if we say, oh, but we're willing to talk, that hurts our petition.
Am I lost here? Is that gonna change anything from what we've done thus far?
I think what Councilmember Musachio is saying is, I think she doesn't want staff to be continuing and this back and forth like we've been doing. And I think she wants to stop that process. If the township wants to come back with an offer, that's fine. Am I correct?
I'm correct. I think we've spent staff time and legal fees and hearings on this. I think we've made our best offer, and I think we're done.
You know, if the township were to come back with something and they have that, you know, the council is always, requests are always made of the council. They can consider that at any time, but I think what the motion is that she just wants the discussion with staff and the back and forth to stop, if I'm
I don't want
speaking
any
out to-
counter offers to whatever they say, or any consideration of any changes that they have proposed.
Well, I'm under the assumption that the motion made that we're gonna go with the petition. If they decide to go with the orderly annexation, we just do it. We're not gonna job back and forth. They're either gonna sign one or the other. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
It would have to come back to the council. Right,
Yeah.
an orderly annexation agreement, if the township signed one and provided and said, here's what we'd like to do, that would come back to the council.
But what's on the table is changes to it.
But basically, the discussions will cease. We've got the orderly and we got the petition.
They're
The wording
still
gonna change?
changing the orderly annexation agreement in major ways, they're proposing. And I don't think our staff or our lawyers should think about the changes
Don't
they're
get me
proposing.
confused by changing
Yeah.
my vote.
Well, and you know, and some of that too, we've been having discussions with them and we're trying to come up with an agreement at the staff level, so that's not, part of it is staff is working with them to try to find something that we think we can all agree to.
Mhm.
So that's why you haven't seen the most latest version, but there were some changes that came after the last council meeting, but before the township meeting, so that's why there was some additional revisions, and you never got a chance to see that, all of those changes, so that's why you see those amendments tonight.
Mhm.
And that's just because some of that county information came later.
Yeah, quite frankly, it was based on the discussion at that public open house about, there appeared to be some consensus to have the county involved, which, after discussions today, I think is not an option. But also, there were some revisions proposed by city staff with respect to that setback delineation and some language added, so that if an agreement did take place, Benton County would still perform the septic inspections and the wetland delineation issues, rather than the city assuming those.
And I would like to cut off those negotiations. Because it's just a moving target and you're never gonna hit it. So that's my motion, is to cut off those negotiations and withdraw our offer of an orderly annexation agreement from the township.
Okay, council, you've heard Rosalie's statement, motion. Do we have a second? There is no second, so the motion will not go through. We will now move on to open forum. If there's anyone present who wishes to speak, they can come up to the podium, give their name, address, and what their concerns are. We'll move on to department reports. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything other than the annexation discussion we've already had.
Thank you.
I do have something for Adam. Are you planning on being at the April meeting? We have a person that's gonna be on the agenda talking about parking.
I am
I haven't told them.
happy to come to any meetings. I always coordinate with Sarah. If she would like me to, or the council would like me to, I'm happy to attend.
I think it'd be a good idea if you did. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but, so we can put.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to administration, Sarah Brunn.
I really don't have anything at this time. I will have an update on the wastewater project, so if we wanna go to that, that's what I'd like to focus on.
Yeah, we'll move on to old business and update on the wastewater project.
Okay, Mayor and Council, I did give you, there's a handout I threw on your spots. I just got this final version today. It's an update. We've had a couple meetings on our connection fee the last couple weeks, and there's a lot of information in this PDF, so don't be overwhelmed by all the technical detail. But I wanted to make sure that you saw, the latest calculation on our connection fee, and that was presented to the, other contract cities today. And so we're still waiting to hear the feedback on that, but right now it's at 6.371 million. So we've gone through the whole process of how they calculated it. It seems to make sense to staff. We've had our engineers take a look at it too, how they're coming up with that figure and what that means for us in moving forward. And I just wanted you to have this information if you do wanna read more about how they calculated that. And there's also some good information too, kind of on the history of that regional group that might be helpful for you to read, so you understand what, how that all started and who's all involved with that. It's always good to understand what we're getting into, and also some history on the St. Cloud treatment facility. So that's for your information. If you have any questions on that, I can certainly take those at this time, and if I can't answer it, I will get you an answer.
So is our connection fee $6,375,000?
That is what the final calc is, you know, assuming nothing crazy changes, that's what I anticipate it will be. Cause they know we need that figure to get finalized here. But that was presented to the area cities today, so the only thing that could possibly change if they had some questions or concerns with how they calculated that and why, you know, but we haven't had any comments yet. We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Okay, nothing on that. Then the other thing that was included in your packet we thought might be helpful was the, this map I have up here. Just shows you a bit more on how this, route and lift station locations and so forth, closer to town. It's a nice map to you can kinda see how things are gonna be put together when it comes to the existing Gulf Pond, some of the lift station rehab we'll be doing, and how things will flow, to St. Cloud. And remember now, we have a built-in system that they're working on where we will be able to reverse flow from that new lift station out in the industrial park and back as a contingency option. So you can kind of see how that routing works. Mark and I just thought you might like to see this visual, and they're still kind of finally, tweaking those locations and such, but, we're getting very close. Plans are getting finalized, and, it looks like it's a 12-inch force main to St. Cloud. It'll be, sometimes different size. I think it's 10-inch from the lift station to the Gulf Pond up, on the north side of the Gulf Ponds. So there are some different calcs, and that's based on how fast we can push that, wastewater. We have to stay, the wastewater has to be pushed at a certain speed, keeping flow, but also you can't push it too fast or too slow to, make it stagnant. There's all sorts of fancy things that engineers do, in my opinion, to figure it out. So, any questions on that? I can relay, or?
Again, we questioned before whether this was gonna be metered on both ends, or is it just gonna be metered on St. Cloud end?
My understanding it's metered on both ends, yeah. And then there's it gets metered in St. Cloud just as like that, we have to put in odor control. So there'll be an odor control station probably in that Summerland area, is what we're thinking, that will insert, and then it'll get metered prior to entering the system, and then that's how they base our charges. So they're gonna base our charges on flow and strength, and those samples and metering and what they do at that location. And we will wanna meter on our own too as well, just to make sure it makes sense what we're sending. And it also help us make sure we're sending, stuff. We have equalization, so we wanna make sure we're utilizing that to the fullest extent as well, to cut our treatment costs as much as possible. And then the last thing, we are still discussing fiber with the county. I have a meeting with them tomorrow. I am trying to get the county to help participate in costs and be a partner with us with that fiber conduit. And so those discussions are ongoing, but either way, we are planning on conduit with the wastewater pipe. The council had already approved that, moving forward in that direction. And then we're working on putting that conduit in as a potential for the 2022 highway project. And that's where I think it'll be very beneficial to the county to get on board, to see if we can't make some connections and improve some of the access we have at the city and county level. Another thing that's important to remember, the county would like to be able to connect their Eastgate building, which is where they house Human Services and Public Health on the east side of St. Cloud. They're paying I think it's $1,000 a month for a connection to that building directly. So we're trying to see if the county could connect directly along our fiber route. And then there's also some benefit with the city and the county being able to connect directly to the city of Sauk Rapids, because we have some BCA technology that's housed there, or ports that are housed there, and it's if we could have a more secure connection, that would be beneficial to law enforcement. So we're trying to get multiple things accomplished with the fiber project, and so we're continuing to work on that. And that's all I have.
Any questions for her? Okay, under new business, we will be discussing the purchase of a piece of land. And at 6:02, we will have to close the council meeting, regular council meeting, to discuss this.
So we gotta kick you out. Sorry, gentlemen. Wait till she's got the video up. Okay, we're good? Yep.
How does that work if somebody's already got an application in, but it hasn't been approved yet? If we do go with the annexation, then that cannot move forward?
Upon the issuance of when the state signs that annexation order, it's like a switch, and suddenly, the city zoning regulations would apply. Even if they have a permit, that's not a guarantee that they have the right to continue.
Okay.
I'm assuming that would get kind of muddy at that point.
It's ripe for conflict, yes.
Now, do we want to let them talk during the meeting, or?
It's up to you.
I think we should.
Okay, we're good? Yep. How does that work? If somebody's already got an application in, but it hasn't been approved yet, if we do go with the annexation order, then that cannot move forward. That's up to you if you want to.
Did you, Scott, did you have some a question you said? Please go up to the podium so we can get you on the mic so everybody can hear.
Well, Doug Leeser, I'm representing Gilmanton Township, I'm the chair. And I guess my question is tonight is, I got the feeling that you're gonna take the land anyway, which is fine, that's up to you, you have that prerogative. And I'm almost, after listening to you guys tonight, am to the point where I'm almost ready to go ahead and let you take it. Because I don't know if this board's gonna even help. Because listening to you guys up there tonight, you're just gonna run right all over us. That's what I'm feeling. And that's just the feeling I'm getting right now, is that you guys are just gonna run right over Gilmanton Township, whether we have this orderly annexation or not.
See, what I was always working on, we don't want to do it that way. That's why we've been trying for the last year to set up this orderly.
About 6 months, not a year. You guys might have started it a year ago, but it
Well,
just came to us and we just got into this like 6 months ago.
like 6 months even, but we don't want to just come in and take it. That's because we don't want to create any hard feelings or anything. That's why we set up this orderly annexation, so the people of Gilmanton Township and the board would have a say in what happened. But we can't just keep waiting and waiting.
And I agree.
And, you know,
So far, we threw a couple things out and right away, just slam blast, you just slammed us right down. And, we're just asking questions.
well, we set up the agreement the way we felt it would work best for both parties. And we know, you know, the option with the orderly annexation would be so much better for everybody. And that's why we want to go that way.
And I agree.
But we just can't afford to keep waiting. We have to do something.
I understand that. But my
And-
question is, as far as us having a board, we gotta come up with some type of an agreement on a board. That's gonna be the big thing. Because you can't have 4 people on a board. That's just, you can't do that. Because then we have ties, and then what's gonna happen?
Well, that's why we wanted to set it up, 2 from the Gilmanton, 2 from the council, and then our Commissioner Scott Johnson would be the deciding if we get ties in that.
Well, Adam says that the county won't go along with it. The county don't want no involvement in it. And I don't think that's right. I'm more than happy to sign it, as long as we have a tie-breaking, otherwise, what's the sense of having it?
I have a question. The tie pretty much goes to Foley, because nothing will get passed. Somebody wants to build a shed. You okay it, you guys deny it. Well, who wins? You guys, 'cause it didn't pass. Am I right?
Well, just to be clear, so, you know, if somebody's coming in for a permitted use or a conditional use, everybody's constrained by the ordinance, the township representatives and the city representatives. And so, you know, it's no different than any other application the city might get. If the city improperly denies something, the city's butt's on the hook and has exposure for a lawsuit. And that's gonna be no different than on the joint planning board. What I will say is, I serve as the city attorney for the city of Sauk Rapids. We have a joint planning board with Sauk Rapids Township and Minden Township, and those are both 4-member boards. And what I will tell you is having 4 members means that you gotta compromise. And so, because nobody's able to run roughshod over the other. And so you might think that that would stymie things, but actually it forces folks to compromise. And so, my personal experience is that the 4-member board actually does function pretty well.
It really can't move forward until there's an agreement anyway.
Right, and you know, if if somebody comes in for a request and 2 representatives vote no, and that person is supposed to get a permit because it's either a permitted use or a conditional use, you know, that puts that board in jeopardy of being sued, and I'm quite confident none of the city representatives wanna be put in that position. So it does, you know, you have discussions, and sometimes they're, you know, heated discussions, but at the end of the day, you know, government's gotta do the right thing, and you gotta figure out a compromise in order to get stuff through. And so, yeah, it's maybe not gonna be as easy as if you had an odd number board, but really, I think you'd see that board will function.
Yeah, I think setting it up 2 and 2, like he said, that way one side can't run over the other side and keep voting just what they want and everything. That way you got, that's a good idea. You know, like you said, he knows, he's dealt with it before, and he knows how it works.
So just another question, why didn't the county water get involved?
So I had a discussion with the county attorney's office today, and there was a representative of the Department of Development involved. And so partly it stems from the city of St. Cloud and Minden Township. The county has a representative on there, and I think you'll see in the near future that the county's gonna get out of that. And so I think the county, one, doesn't want to be involved in potential disputes between 2 units of government. And 2, the county attorney was concerned about their authority to sit on that board without having some sort of zoning control that went along with that. And that's really just not how these orderly annexation agreements are set up. You know, it's a shared responsibility by the members sitting on that joint board.
So by all means, we'd rather go the orderly annexation. Everybody agreed to what is going on. I was a little confused. There were some people that last meeting were worried about taking agricultural land out of its usage. But yet they're talking about putting in solar systems. So I guess I don't know what the difference is. They'll take it out by the solar system, but they don't want to take it out by building on it.
Basically, solar is part of agriculture now, so they're paying rent on the land, just like some of you rented it to some other farmer. So that's basically what it amounts to. It's almost like agriculture, so.
I think that's 2 different farms.
Yeah.
Okay. Adam, if just say we passed the orderly one with 2 and 2, okay, if we find there's just too much fighting and nothing getting done, is it possible to add a amendment to that to put in a 5th one if we just can't seem to work it?
Yep, so that orderly annexation agreement is just like any other contract. As long as both parties agree on how to amend it, it could be amended. The other thing I would say is, you know, it does have a term. So if it doesn't work, either one of the parties could decide, we're not renewing it, this is just not working. So, I mean, it's not indefinite, it does have an end date to it. The expectation is that it would function and would be renewed, you know, and these things evolve because the joint board may decide to tweak the ordinances that apply in the orderly annexation area, and the board can do that. And certainly the function of the board, you know, that's controlled by the agreement. And if the city and township agree that there needs to be a change made, yeah, it absolutely could be made.
Okay, yeah, like I said, he knows firsthand, he's been involved in this, and I would like to see that orderly passed with the 2 and 2, and we'll see how it works. And we can always change it if we have to, but like you said, it makes the 4 people that are on the board, they gotta kinda compromise, and they can come up with different solutions maybe, and make it work. 'Cause that's the way we'd like to go, is the orderly one, but
Well, if we go the other way, there's not gonna be a board.
there's not gonna be a board, no.
And I'd rather see the combination of the township and the city working together.
And I would too, but I don't know if some of our residents want it that way.
I think
Yeah.
it'll work. You know,
I mean,
I think, I don't know, people reading too much into this or whatever it is.
I know.
But I have no reason why it wouldn't work.
and you know, no matter which way you go, there's gonna be some people that are gonna be pissed.
Alright.
And there's gonna be some that are gonna be happy. I mean, it just, that's the way it always works. And
I agree.
do you have any other questions? Anything you wanna bring up? Okay, you guys have a meeting tomorrow night, correct?
7:30 tomorrow night. And you're welcome to come.
Okay,
I mean, you can certainly see where we're coming from.
Oh, yeah, I see where
We're just protecting, you know,
I see 100% where you're.
our boundaries here, and,
I'm also elected by Gilmanton Township.
Exactly,
and I try
yeah,
to
exactly.
represent them the best I
Yeah.
can. So,
well, you're doing a good job right now, I'll say that. You're doing a good job for your township. Okay, instead of adjourning the meeting tonight, we will be
You wanna recess?
recessing.
Is
Recess.
that something that,
I'll make the motion that we recess until,
we can figure out
Yeah,
time?
you can set a specific
Yeah.
time and date.
Tomorrow I have a meeting with the county in the afternoon, so we either have to do like a noon or,
How are you gonna want to do that for council meeting?
not tomorrow, Thursday, I'm sorry. Apologize. Thursday I have a meeting with the county, so it has to be like either a noon or after like a 3. I have a couple meetings. Otherwise Friday is wide open for me, I don't know what everybody's schedules are.
Well, yeah, it shouldn't be a long one. I mean, we should,
It'd be more just to recap what Gilmanton discussed on and where we're at with that if we want.
We just need 3 people for that.
What doesn't require a super, yeah. But if there's a date, Friday's wide open.
And the purpose of the meeting